Okay, I don't have a whole bunch to say, obviously. A lot of guys really had sensational games, Pharaoh Cooper, Brandon Wiles, and so forth. One or two calls I wish I could have done over. But we couldn't hold the lead, as we all saw. Just not good enough. Not good enough to hold the lead, not coached well enough overall as a team. I've done a lousy job of maximizing what we think we got here. We can score a few points, but we find a way to lose. And yes, this is a tough one. It'll take a while to get this one out of your system. But we've had about 3 or 4 like this year. So I guess I should be getting used to it by now, but I have a tough time getting used to these kind of things. A lot of guys played well, but we couldn't hold the lead there. So I don't need to take any questions. You guys watched it, and I need to just get out of here, I think, for a while.
You are watching East Tennessee's first and only year-round sports talk show on television. This is The Sports Source with your host, John Pennington.
A little Schadenfreude to get your morning started. I'm guessing there are some Vol fans that enjoyed that. Happy Halloween weekend. For once, it appears that Tennessee has a coach who can turn Steve Spurrier into a pumpkin. It's pretty. There you go. There. So Butch Jones now 2-0 against the old ball coach. We'll talk plenty about that. We'll also tackle the Josh Dobbs stuff. We'll tackle tackling. We'll talk about the defense and the issues there. A lot of stuff in today's show. Think you're going to enjoy it. Our first segment brought to you by our good friends at Phil Cobble Fine Homes and Land. And one of the things that I enjoy about this show and my job is I get to know folks who run their businesses. And the team that Phil Cobble has put together at Fine Homes and Land, that's second to none. Just my dealings with them, smart, honest, and they care. That's the thing you notice from talking about them. They care about making sure their sellers and their buyers are 100% happy. So many extras and add-ons that I just can't cover them all. So thanks to Phil Cobble Fine Homes and Land. You should call them today if you're in the market for a house or if you're trying to sell your house. And if you like this show, and judging by the ratings you do, if you like this show, it's due to our sponsors. And you visiting them keeps this show going. Thanks to them, go check out Phil Cobble Fine Homes and Land. All right, I have to thank these guys every week too. We got Bob Hodge, freelance contributor to the Knoxville News Sentinel. Will Overstreet, former Vol defensive end. Jimmy Himes from WNML Sports Radio 990 WNML. I'm going to have to learn the new signature. And Chuck Cavaleris from Tennessee Golf Central, longtime cover of UT Athletics. All right. Let me show you what we got coming up today in terms of our headlines. We're going to talk a lot about the comeback victory, obviously. Bandwagon, some people on it and off it during the game last night. Dobbs' performance, defensive issues, as I mentioned. We're going to buy and sell stock in several position groups moving into 2014. I think that'll be interesting. We'll talk about some play calls and some in-game decision makings, handing out some attaboys, and then a Cavaliers line on the odds of Tennessee making a bowl game this year. All right. First of all, guys, I think it was a night to remember, and we'll show some stats here in a minute, but just opening thoughts on this comeback victory. We said last week Tennessee didn't quit against Alabama. They haven't quit all year. This is one of the youngest teams in the country. They showed fight all the way again last night.
Incredible. Because if you're a Tennessee fan, enjoy the heck out of this. They happen about once every 5 or 6 years where you get the impossible kind of win. And I think you summed it up for all the things that happened as far as play calls and strategy and this and that. It was the not quit in the players. I thought Tennessee was really in trouble when they kicked a field goal in overtime. I thought, this isn't going to be good. And then to see Carolina just get backed up 15, 16, whatever many yards it was, that tells you something that they had left in the tank that I don't think South Carolina did.
And Spurrier, you also have to credit him for once again, instead of sticking with the run, he drops back to pass and drops himself out of field goal range. Thoughts on Tennessee's comeback and the fight the players show?
It was great in the overall because they really did not play that great of a game overall. I mean, you had a lot of mistakes on the offense, on defense. There was play calling that was questionable. So I think overall this was a great game because it was all about effort and who was going to stay in it the longest, who believed they could win this ball game. And anytime you can make the old ball coach throw the visor and throw it on the ground, you know you're doing something right. And that's what happened a lot last night.
I thought Spurrier said something revealing even before the game. He said that of Tennessee's defense, they play really hard and they play with great effort. We're going to try to get our guys to do that. which is kind of condemning his own players.
Scathing.
And you saw Tennessee, I know they gave up 600-something yards, but in that overtime to get those 2 sacks I thought was impressive. And to think about this, with 2 minutes left in the game, Tennessee's down 14 points, and they're on the 30-yard line of South Carolina, and they win the game? I mean, what kind of odds would you have gotten out of Vegas on that one? I give him a lot of credit for hanging in there, being resilient, and making big plays, and Josh Dobbs was terrific.
And to me, it just shows that this team believes, and they're all pulling in the same direction. Going into the game, they were saying the whole mantra was whatever it takes, WIT. And that's what they believe. To me, it was an instant classic, the way it turned out. It's the type of game that you'll, 10 years from now, you'll put on and you'll remember what happened.
You'll see it again on SEC Network very soon because they've got some programming holes, it seems. We mentioned a night to remember. Let me show you some of the reasons last night was a night to remember. We should have a little bit of information for you on the screen. Butch Jones now 2-0 versus Steve Spurrier. Josh Dobbs set the record for UT quarterback rushing yards with 166. That record was held by Jimmy Streeter back in 1979. South Carolina now 1-3 all time in overtime. All 3 losses to Tennessee. Vols, that was just their second road win in the last 16 games. So winning on the road, and that's why I thought Carolina was going to win that game because Tennessee just hasn't shown they can get over the hump on the road. They did last night. Biggest fourth quarter deficits overcome to win. 17 in that great LSU comeback in 05. Came back from 15 down to beat Vanderbilt in 07. Tony Robinson on the 2-point conversion got him a win after a 14-point deficit over Bama in 1984. And then last night, big win. I mean, it ranks up there with some of the biggest comebacks in Tennessee history. And let's talk just quickly. The man who showed an incredible amount of poise, Daniel Hood, former Vol Daniel Hood, said on WNML this week, or yesterday as a matter of fact, that if the players last year had voted in terms based off practice, Peterman would have been your number 1 quarterback, Worley number 2, Dobbs number 3. Guy may not practice well. There's no question he's a gamer, though. He looked very poised last night.
If you're a coach, what do you do in that situation? Because everybody's saying it's obvious he should have been playing the entire season. It's obvious. I don't think, and I'm not there at practice, but it's not obvious when the guy doesn't practice well. Well, he doesn't practice well. Let's stick him out there and see what happens.
Especially if you're trying to keep a red shirt on him.
I know what I do now.
Thoughts on his performance, though? His poise that he showed.
For him, he's like he's gliding out there. He's really fast, but there's sometimes when he's making up yards on the defense. Of course, South Carolina's defense isn't very good. But I just, the throw in, did he miss some passes? Yes. But I'm going to live with that with all the other things he gives you. And I know we differ on this a little bit. The offensive line's blocking better. It has a whole lot to do with Dobbs, though. There's no question about that. But I think the tackle play is better.
Yes.
The changes they made at tackle, I think, has made that line better. And I think they're energized. I think they feel better about what they're doing, and it gives them some confidence.
I think that's a big part of it. They feel better about what they can accomplish with him out there.
And I think you saw that when Peterman, when Worley was in the game, you saw this offense had a different level of confidence. Peterman comes in, you saw the lack of confidence by this team. Josh Dobbs, they have that confidence again, and even a little bit more so because they know what he's able to do. This offense really feeds off what type of quarterback is in that game. And if they're not feeling confident, the whole offense is not feeling confident.
And don't forget, that was his first start of this season.
Yeah.
And I still go back to the Alabama game, and when he went into the game, it would have been so easy to have that deer in headlights look. And you didn't see that from him. And I said, he can play.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys very quickly, as in like 30 seconds quickly. That had to feel good for the coaches. That last night, I watched the game and watched Twitter as well. And I'm taking notes. And Twitter, baby, 1:20, like 2 minutes to go. Butch Jones needs to be fired. He can never get it done. The staff you don't give up 600 yards in an SEC game. Apparently, Steve Spurrier, the second greatest coach in league history, can. But then, as soon as Tennessee comes back, this team won't quit on Butch Jones. They love Butch Jones. That had to feel good for the coaching staff because they've been taking some heat. And if you're not getting wins, you're going to take heat.
Especially when they got chewed out when they didn't have a substitution right.
Yeah,
They got really
He led
good
into
when
one
they
of
came
his-
back
You
and won
talk-
that game.
You talk about the
word.
bandwagon. There were a lot of people chasing the bandwagon as soon as South Carolina's field goal fell short. More people chasing it than on it.
Trying to get back on it.
Bingo.
Check it off.
Yeah, where'd the bandwagon go?
I agree. And the Dobbs bandwagon cleared out too after that interception. And he was 8 of 18 passing at one point. and it was all back on.
At the end, I was chasing that one too.
Had to feel good for the coaching staff. All right, when we come back, we'll talk about those defensive issues that hurt the Vols last night, and we'll talk about Dobbs' play specifically. Come on back on the Sports Source.
Decks, dens, homes. Turn to Benedict Construction.